Fun fact, there's a band named after that whiskey.
Ed, you're not just a pretty face. So we get approached by companies to work with them, and they pick our whiskies to work with, and it's quite interesting because there's fans for bands. It's an agency who look after the Motorhead and Scorpions, and we make whiskey for them, and we make very good whiskey for them. The reason why we got approached to do Motorhead and why it's Swedish is that the drummer for Motorhead is Swedish. And
it's not just because their name has an umlaut in it.
No. These are both 40%. This is bourbon finished cask, and this is cherry wine finished. Very different, completely different. This is one of my favorites.
Okay.
My absolute favorite.
Really?
All the range we do.
And so we've brought it down to 40%.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
It's naturally accessible to all different markets, because a lot of people have, like South Africa, you're not allowed to sell 40% on the market. No. So hence we brought this out.
Do you manage South Africa for Mackmyra?
I do.
How many whiskies do you have out of all these guys that can actually be sold there?
Very little, and the problem is they sold 750 mils versus 700. So it's a repackaging.
So everything is difficult.
Yeah, so hence the 40%, because it appeals to the market. And the balance on this whiskey, once you taste it, is very good. So because Lemmy was a big fan of bourbon and American whiskey, I don't know if you want to look at the bottle, it's quite interesting.
Is this also an in-house design?
Yeah.
It
Really?
screams Motorhead.
Fans for bands is we just case.
I mean, this is. I mean, anyone that's a Motorhead fan. I mean, even if it didn't say Motorhead on it, you just look at it and think. You'd start hearing the music in your head.
But notice the bottle's slightly different.
Well, no. I mean, it's considerably different. It's much
heavier, shorter stumper.
Yeah, it's more of a base bit as well.
And I think those are things
very
that
heavy.
we try to distinguish slightly from the brand, but they still got our logo on it, and the product inside is ours. It's so successful with us that they've asked us to do the full range of products as of today. So
really,
it's a bit of
That's
gossip.
a bit of an exclusive, yeah.
There's exclusive.
There we go.
But guys, get a load of this. This for me is one of the best whiskies we do in our range.
Well,
And
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Lemmy.
To Lemmy.
Yeah. That is so different.
That's interesting.
Now I can sit and just drink that.
Yeah. I
It's
can't.
bourbon.
I have one problem though.
What?
We've gone through all these great tasting and more complex, especially when we ended up on the peated. It's just the one thing you get with Mackmyra is the complexity, the flavour profile. This is a lot simpler almost. It's a completely different.
I think the fact that if you pick most other whiskies in this to go down to 40%, this would probably taste of water, and you wouldn't get anything from it. There's a lot going on here, even on your palate at this level. It's smelling it, definitely you get the bourbon and all the flavours of that.
I think when you start, if you think about this compared to the Mac that we had earlier, again, completely different, still at 40%. Yeah. It goes back to doing a simple thing very well, like Motorhead. And that's what this is. This isn't complex in the same sense of some of those exotic finishes that we had. This is well executed, delicious whiskey.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's and you certainly could sit and drink this all night long.
I promise you, I tried this and I was like, oh dear God, this is something I've been looking for in the range. So for me, this screams to me, because my taste profile is more bourbon lately, and I don't know why, maybe it's an age thing. And this kind of does it for me.
So I came into whiskey via bourbon. That's how I started off. And my way into Scotch was via Monkey Shoulder. And I found that as a nice halfway house between the two. And this is in that kind of area, which also makes me quite scared, because I remember what Monkey Shoulder did.
But I can get those bourbon notes, and I can see why it's similar to bourbon.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same kind of sweetness that bourbon
No.
It's definitely whiskey in the more traditional whiskey term.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that, you know, for rock and roll, I mean, you know, it's a rock and roll, that's where it is.
Yeah.
It's like rough, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's
I can
big,
see
it's
them drinking
bold.
it out of the bottle on stage.
Yeah.
And you would think when you see a whiskey that's made for a rock band, it's gonna be a bit of a gimmick, right? Yeah, I mean that's your natural thought.
There's a lot going on at the moment in the whiskey market with people putting names to things
Game
which
of
aren't
Thrones whiskey. There's all kinds of spots.
Can I
of
just
whiskey.
put one up there? I hate Game of Thrones whiskey.
I haven't had it yet.
No, I can't.
I've not tasted it. It's just the whole concept of it. Just
You do know what's in them at least, because they are specific name distilleries that they've just rebranded to say this Lagavulin is going to be, I think, off the top of my head, this is probably wrong. I think Lagavulin is Lannister, and they've just so each of the different
thought process has gone into
Yeah, so they take a specific whiskey from a specific distillery and they give it a brand name. But at the same, I get where you're
to be
coming
fair,
from.
I haven't had it told to me that way. So far, I've just gone like White Walker.
Oh yeah, White Walker is more. I'd say so. When I first see Motorhead whiskey, I'm going to think it's the equivalent of White Walker.
Yeah.
It's someone came in, we've got an idea that's going to help us shift a lot of whiskey.
Yeah.
We're going to put a rock band on it, and everyone's going
watch
to buy
out.
it. Yeah, and that's what I'd expect, and that is not what that is.
That's great.
If this was just, if you just had this in the core range, or you just said, okay, we're going to try this whiskey, I would think that it just fits quite comfortably within the stable of the other whiskeys. That is a great whiskey, which happens to have a cool story because it does kind of taste like rock and roll.
Yeah, and that's where I think they presented it, and you know they got signed off by the band. They endorsed it, and yeah, we got it.
What kind of retail is it compared to with the rest of your range?
It's actually not that expensive because it's 40% alcohol, because the bottle's different, because we only get a portion of it. I think it retails at about around the £60 mark.
Okay.
But you know, that's retail. You know,
Yeah.
they've got their markup as well, but it's good. It's very good.
Yeah, I mean, so you are probably paying a bit of a premium for that brand.
Because it's the name brand.
Yeah, because I suppose you've got another party that's going to be taking a share of the I get that.
Yeah.
But it fits quite comfortably in the rest of the range. It's a very nice whiskey.
I think it's superb. Yeah. The next one we're moving on to. So this is Scorpions, which is another one of the Fans for Brands products. This is very interesting. It's a German cherry wine finish and a Spanish sherry cask finish. So it's very different from what you just had. You can see bottles different, slightly cheaper, like half the price. You're looking at £40 for the bottle.
Does that say anything about Motorhead fans versus Scorpions fans?
Big in Germany for obvious reasons. I must let you know that they are on tour in the UK this year.
We're going to see them.
Yeah,
Did I follow the band?
are we going to have to put hashtag advertisement on here?
So is this the other way around? Like everyone at like Motorhead, they have a band and then they bring whiskey to people. The Scorpions way around. It's like if we get people liking our whiskey, they might listen to us.
So yeah, so they are on tour this year in the UK, which is quite interesting. So if you like their whiskey, pop along. Guys, very different. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I suppose it also screams rock and roll.
It's really sweeter on the nose.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. That cherry wine is very predominant here.
So I've never come across cherry wine before.
No, it's quite popular in the Nordics. We do a lot of cherry wine stuff, but Germany now doing it as well.
Is it a proper fermented cherry, or is it?
Yeah, it's cherry wine they make it, and then we get the cask, so it's proper
So
wine.
it's like the cherry schnapps you get.
Yeah, very.
It's quite smooth. I'm afraid I might be in the camp of this isn't quite my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest. I think it's a bit dull.
Of the range, if you were to look at what we've done and what we've come across, and now you land.
Back you up on that.
Yeah, but
Oh, that's the one.
that's the one.
But then equally, we have done all these.
We
really
have had some amazing whiskey tonight.
to push like the winter one,
But
and
yeah, like this-
You
you
can
the
see
Amarone
where the
cask
price
finish.
parity is.
So what's the price on
about
this?
£40.
£40.
So that was rash. What this reminds me of, you know, when you've been in whiskey for a bit, you've started off in somewhere poor. My mum was Jack Daniels. I'm glad I got out of it. And then you're starting to progress into actually understanding whiskey and the subtleties, and it's not just about kaboom, high, it's about all the flavours. This is is in that stage of your whiskey career or whiskey life, that would have been fantastic. I can really see me.
What's interesting is it is still similar to the rest of the range with the mouthfeel and a really nice finish.
And the oilies there. And
yeah, so I can see how this does fit in the rest of the range. It's a similar experience.
Correct.
It's a nice mouthfeel. It does have a nice finish. It's not quite as complex or as well. I don't want to say well executed, but I think the thing that I've said consistently throughout all your other ones is they are just flawlessly executed. They're so interesting.
Correct.
This one is just a bit boring to me.
Yeah. And
has Angela made that one?
Yeah. They obviously have a taste profile that they look for, and they work together with her, but she kind of gets it right for them.
Because everything else from Angela, the way I would describe it is it's an oil painting worth of just so many different inputs that brought together just flies, but it's obviously taken a long time to figure out how to get there. This is a charcoal painting, still great and fantastic, but because you've had the oil paintings behind it, you're like, yeah, it's good, but I like that. Depth. I've gone to that next level now.
It's so for the German market, and I think that's why, because it was a German band and the German product, and I think that's maybe their taste profile and not ours. It works.
Which is fair.
Yeah. Where would you put that next to the Mac? Because similar pricing.
Oh, I mean, Mac every day.
Actually, you really like the Mac of the original.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the Mac, and I think what I liked about it was the way it was executed and the way it tasted on the palate, the way the flavors developed. It felt more well constructed to me. Whereas this, as I say, it's not bad.
No, it's not a bad whiskey.
It's not a bad whiskey. I just find it a bit dull.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of school of thought about that. It's 40% alcohol. It's it's a whiskey.
Yeah, I feel really bad for chucking it away now.
Okay.
Well, but that said, that was 40% alcohol. And I mean, and that is, I think, sensational.
Correct. Agreed.
So yeah, so just because it's a low alcohol doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a great whiskey.
Well, it's like we had 46.1, 4 of them in a row, and one of them we thought was higher. It tastes like it's higher. It's the beauty of what Mackmyra does. They can play around with flavours without.
So clean your glasses, and we're now going to move to what Mackmyra does really well.
Sorry, that wasn't what Mackmyra does well.
No, now we're going to the top.
Trust me, this is my favourite bit.
Yeah.
So after group,
I thought this was when we were done.
No.